So all those changes that you just listed, just so I'm clear, they were made to this bill that we're taking up today that are different than the bill that, and I have it, I don't know if I'm
this is a
supposed to
work
say his name,
product
but
from
a former member had previously.
Yeah, this is a work product from the members, and I have to thank many of the members who've put input in, and also thank our great speaker who provided us an avenue to have this conversation.
So I'm curious because I don't know that much about this, but I've done a little bit of research, and it looks as though there is some precedent around the country for similarly taking a look at the issue of reparations. How many states around the country prior to New York have taken up this issue?
So if you're talking about reparations, there have been many examples of reparations.
Okay.
And let me just jump back, because there's actually was the Homestead Act of 1862, where Union soldiers who fought in the war was able to get 160 free parcels of federal land. So those who fought in the Civil War received some sort of reparations. In addition, there are currently, right now in this modern day and age, California that has a reparations task force, and then there's other local municipalities that has presented reparation bills. So we have a municipality in Illinois that provided a reparation bill that talked about housing and provided housing and support for individuals, for Black Illinoisans who were looking for support. North Carolina had a housing and community program. Maryland has a proposed bill as well, and New Jersey, our sister state, is also looking at a task force. And in Illinois, the model was they gave there was a 3% tax on recreational cannabis. There was no cash payouts, but there was a $10 million distribution in $25,000 payments, down payments for mortgages, for home repairs, because we know that many Black residents were affected by housing discrimination between 1990 and 1969. And so in Illinois, they provided that for residents to make amends for the sins of chattel slavery and its legacies.
Thank you so much for your answer. You mentioned the Homestead Act that was just post-Civil War. Mm-hmm. Did the Homestead Act, though, grant tracts of land to all soldiers who had served, or was it specifically for African-American soldiers?
It's for everyone, every walks of life, every citizen, whether you're enslaved or not. And remember, not only Americans fought in the war, there also enslaved people also fought in the Civil War as well.
Yes, and many from New York.
Yes.
Yeah, many from New York. That's so interesting. So now you mentioned a couple of states. You mentioned California, Illinois, mm-hmm. North Carolina, mm-hmm. Maryland, and New Jersey. So mm-hmm. I just want to be clear. I guess the state that I was a little bit familiar about what they were doing was California.
Correct.
Because they actually have an ongoing task force or commission. I don't know what they're calling it, but did the path kind of that California is following, is that envisioned as what we're shaping this legislation around, similar? And
I just want to also mention that also on a federal level, H.R. 40 is actually being debated, which is a federal reparations bill as well. But to your point, their commission, you always look at, and as we do with every piece of legislation, we always look at what other states are doing and take, the best and the worst and, learn from the worst and, make your piece of legislation better. And I feel that within this document that we are producing and voting on today, we are doing that.
Now, California started back in, I think, 2020. Is that when they formed their commission?
I don't have the exact dates, but they have actually produced a report. So they've went through the public hearings, the comments, and all that.
And could you just, for our knowledge, just kind of summarize how that process went, since the process that New York is following might in some ways parallel it?
I believe that, as I said, this process is somewhat different, but it's basically a commission was produced. They hear from the community and the public. They come, the commission convenes and then produces a document, a non-binding document, which goes to whether it's a municipality or the state government, for them to deliberate.
So how long did it take the California task force to produce their report?
It was probably, it's different, and so, I can't speak to the timeline, but again, in New York, our timeline is going to be our timeline, and so I took that factor into this bill. And also remember, every second that we wait, individuals, Black New Yorkers, are still being impacted by the injustices of chattel slavery and its legacies. And so we really need to start moving on this so that we can begin the healing process. We can start having and working together and empowering all New Yorkers.
Yep. Am I correct that the bill provides for a report to be produced no later than 1 year after the first meeting of the commission?
Yes.
How long do you think it will take to form the commission and have the commission begin its work?
Once the individuals are appointed, they can begin the process of meeting.
Okay.
So
But I mean,
they have to wait 6 months.
So about 6 months to...
And in the bill language, it speaks to that process of convening.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just so I'm clear, so the 6 months that you reference is about how long you think it might take to actually form the commission and get the appointments and everybody on board that's going to be...
So after the bill is
serving?
passed and signed into law, there is 6 months for the commission to convene.
Okay. And then you mentioned, I believe in response to earlier questions, that it's envisioned that once the commission is convened, that there will be, among other things, other work that the commission will be doing, there'll be a series of public hearings held throughout the state.
And then we also have empowered the commission to consult with, institutions and other entities to help them with this work.
So I was interested to see, hold on, I've got to open my phone up here. Hold on. Yeah. I was looking at a very simple search as far as the five, they listed 5 different forms of reparations. So one was restitution, one was compensation, one was rehabilitation, one was satisfaction, and one was guarantees of non-repetition.
Yes.
That was just one place, but am I going down the right path in terms of those 5 general outlines?
We're saying the same thing in different words.
Okay. All right. Very good. And I was looking at what the NAACP had to say about reparations, and what they said in one statement was, I believe it's from their website, that reparations would involve a national apology. So national, obviously, and here we are in New York, but I understand you mentioned that HR 40, which is being looked at as well, but it would involve apology, rights to the cannabis industry, financial payment, social service benefits, and land grants to every descendant of an enslaved African American and Black person, a descendant of those living in the United States, including during American slavery until the Jim Crow era. So do you, as the sponsor of this piece, and understanding that I know the commission needs to meet and do their work, but is something along those lines what you would expect to be recommendations coming from this commission?
So, again, we are not dictating what points that the commission should be analyzing. We are just saying that a commission should be formed. And my opinion at this point is none of a concern. It's really about what the people want to have. And, I really wanted a community commission, but again, we are here at this point, and I'm glad that we're going to have this conversation. But it's important that the people of New York, especially Black New Yorkers, has a say in what reparation looks like. And the commission produces a document, and they present it to the legislature, a non-binding document.
Thank you very much for saying that. Now, you mentioned that California, which I believe that they started in around 2020, 2021, and now they have come out with a report. Could you summarize, if you know, the highlights of the report that California put out in their commission with regard to reparations? What were the recommendations overall?
So I just want to clarify. You're asking me to summarize a report from California?
Yes, I am, if you know.
I don't have the report before me, but I just recommend people going online or to your local library and finding out, what that report has.
Well, I thought, just from this quick search that I had, because I didn't know that this bill was coming up until just a short time ago. I did the best research that I could in the time that I had. I know that you're much more of a subject matter expert than I on this.
But I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, thank you. And so what I saw was that that there was to be financial, would that be restitution? Maybe that's the wrong term, but I think financial restitution and an apology, and that those were maybe the two main aspects of what they were recommending. And maybe there are others, but that's what I saw. So I could certainly go to my library and look it up and research it further, and I appreciate your comment. I appreciate your comment. But in terms of the amount of reparations, just from having listened to the news, and goodness knows we've been busy doing other things here too, passing other bills, but I seem to remember that the number coming out of California was a number that was very, very high to me. But do you remember how much money that was that they had put out there as the amount to be done as reparations?
What reparations in California may look different from what it is in New York. And so for us to be representing or thinking or discussing what their exact number is really just is really inappropriate, because we have to hear from New Yorkers what they want to discuss. They could focus on rehabilitation, they could focus on restitution, apologies, they can focus on compensation, but we need to have the conversation. And that's what this commission does right here. And so we can compare and contrast California to New York, and I would say New York is better. And so let us go through the process so we can find out if New York is better.
Absolutely. I agree with you that New York is way better than California. That's why I always hesitate when we take any ideas from California. I think we should have our own. But
this is actually from HR 41.
Yeah, HR 41. Yeah, and I said HR 40 earlier.
HR 40, excuse me.
HR 40, okay.
HR 40.
So that HR 40 then, let's talk about that for a second, because I don't know a lot about that. HR 40 then, would that be a national response to the same issues that New York would be focusing on with this bill?
Yes, correct. So, as with, many things we talk about, HR 40 would be the national conversation of what reparations look like. And it's great that we're having and beginning this process. If the bill in chief goes through, it's going to put us in a unique position, because already as a state, we are going to be able to articulate our needs or what is our expectations of reparations if HR 40 goes through.
Very good. Now, I wanted to just jump very quickly over to the individuals who were going to be, there were going to be 3 appointments, and I know that this was slightly covered before, but I wanted to specifically ask this. 3 appointments by the governor, 3 appointments by the Speaker of the Assembly, 3 appointments by the temporary president of the Senate. And I know that the previous speaker had talked about the absence of minority leadership appointments, and we've covered that. But I wanted to specifically ask, as this conversation unfolds through the commission and the public hearings that are going to be held, do you envision or can you comment at all about the services or an appointment of somebody who is some kind of an economist, or somebody who can do, it seems to me like if you're going to potentially come up with a recommendation of an amount, that you would need to maybe engage the,
May I answer the gentlewoman's question?
It is my last question, Mr. Speaker.
May I answer her question? I know she's out of time. We have qualifications within the bill. That's it.
Right.
But this only focuses on African Americans, correct?
So we're going to be hearing from many. If stakeholders want to express their feelings and concerns, we definitely urge them to do so. It would be the job of the commission to determine what reparations look like. So I don't want to sit here and define what the commission is going to ultimately produce, but we want to hear from individuals, what we can do to, tackle chattel slavery and its legacies.
I'm,
Am I correct? The bill doesn't have a date, a certain date that it has to be out by?
The commission it should be a year within the first meeting.
Okay, and then it's, what? And then the commission terminates after 90 days of,
Yes.
of the, that report being given. Okay.
It shall expire and deemed repealed.
Yes, and then the
90
act
days
is deemed
after.
expired and repealed. All right,
Mr. Ari Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
Ms. Solage, will you yield?
Yes.
Ms. Solage yields, sir.
Thank you, Madam Sponsor. I'm certainly not going to be as eloquent as my colleague, Assemblywoman Lucas, but along the same lines. I just want to, as a dad of 7, I always try to get to the heart of a problem or else we're going nowhere. So I want to focus on some of the wording. The slavery and the impact of these forces on living people of African descent. Will the study define and analyze who is of African descent? How will we know who that is?
That's why the duties of commission are listed here. And, I just want to say it examines the institution of slavery, which existed, and the commission's examination shall include and not be limited to the capture and procurement of Africans, the transportation of Africans, the sale and acquisition, and then, all of this is listed. So we list it. We are not trying to limit the commission. The commission has the ability to analyze chattel slavery, lineage-based reparations, harm-based reparations. We don't define, and nor should we define, what the commission should be looking at.
Thank you. I asked that, that question on many different levels. We live in an era, unfortunately, of identity politics. When my mom and grandmother came from Italy, everybody just simply wanted to be American. If you were Irish, you were black, the different generations, you all just wanted to be American and serve. Now everybody has to be pigeonholed in a certain area. But in truth, at the end of the day, how would anybody be able to define who is of African American descent? And for a moment, if I may, I don't know if everybody recalls, but last year, 5 or 7 of my children were here, and my grandchildren as well. My children are of a big percentage of African American descent through their beautiful and ageless mother, probably more than a lot of people in this room. Would my blonde-haired, blue-eyed son, Jake, possibly get reparations? He certainly is of African American descent, and I don't mean the white African American descent. How would we define that today?
So the commission would be charged with analyzing that, but just for the sake of the argument, with chattel slavery, these people it was dehumanizing, so these people were deemed property. And so as property, they were quantified on sheets and documentation. And so there's actually records. I just met an individual the other day who actually showed me his family's slave records. He showed where his family was considered, property, and that was quantified, how much his family was, where he come from, almost like as if he was some sort of cattle. And so there are possibilities to analyze your lineage, and the commission will further define that. But just for the sake of this argument and for this debate, this bill in chief just creates a commission and organizes individuals to talk about that.
We don't want this to be an endless cycle, and I thank you for that answer, endless cycle of something going nowhere, getting people's hopes up, and next year we'll be here expanding this thing into something that may go nowhere. And again, I say, my children can trace their history exactly as the way you described. 2 of my blonde-haired, blue-eyed sons could trace it exactly as you have. I wonder, in your opinion, would they be entitled to reparations? They probably have as much African American as possibly you do.
And I'll repeat it. The commission will be charged. The commission will be charged with coming up with the parameters around who may qualify for lineage-based reparations, and that lineage-based means that you can trace your descendants who were enslaved.
I respect that tremendously. Perhaps we should